to add that. And for the theme for this morning, for the question I have, I lately been going more into the realm of imaginal, visualization, active imagination, creative imagination. And so my question here is really, how active is the process when I first start to breathe, I center. I personally, I put attention into my heart, the area of my heart area. I listen to the beats, and I also feeling the space in between the beats. So I start from there. Then the question is, am I going totally receptive? You stay open for whatever could comes out from that receptivity, tranquility? Or do I trying to put a little effort, a little force, a little input into any image, or how much do I put into a steering force into this process? Do you understand the question?
I think so. Now what I'd like for you to do is put it into one sentence, clarify that for yourself, and ask it as if you were going to ask your own higher self.
Yes.
Ask that question again to your higher self, simply. In as few words as possible.
When I'm in my center, and when my heart is open, is it my work to be only receptive? Or is it my work to make the imaginational realm active through any kind of process?
And now sit with that question a moment. Close your eyes, turn the tape recorder off, breathe, and when your higher self responds to that question, turn the tape recorder back on and express your response.
Okay. Okay, I'm here. Well, the answer to my own question is that it's about respond to the very moment that you are in the very moment. When absolutely there is one moment, but let's talk about moment where our mind is putting limits. So naturally, human mind is moving and the thoughts coming up. Naturally, there are things happening in the world. Birds are singing, or other people are talking, or maybe you be in a cave or in a black dark room. So every movement respond to its movement to this question.
Which would mean what then?
Which means that
both, right?
Which means both. Yes.
I mean, correct?
Yes. Yes.
They're both available to you, so why say one's superior to the other?
Yes.
Every time there's that split, you know that my mind's fucking around. All this work is, okay, my response to your question is, from the moment you started to ask your question, what do you see in front of you? My response or answer is to your question.
It's more complicated today because I asked this question to you yesterday after the yoga session I did.
Yes.
and we came out from that theme. That's why I'm returning back to this question today again to
Yes.
to certify this. But then your answer was a bit different. That there was kind of, I don't know what your answer was yesterday.
Well, I don't remember you even asking the question because that's why.
Yeah.
The question hadn't been clarified yet.
Yeah, yeah,
So here's almost always going to be my answer, Michael, to that kind of question is, first of all, simplify the question and ask it as if you're going to ask your higher self. Then center and ask your higher self and wait for the response from your higher self. It may not be the answer, but your higher self will respond even if it doesn't respond. But usually there'll be a response, as there was with you within 40 seconds or less.
but how can you be discern that it's not your mind tricking you or it's the higher self?
Experience, only experience. And the collective understanding, which is wisdom, that you glean or harvest from your experience.
Yeah,
Your experience is your only real, true teacher, master, guru, savior.
yeah,
Your experience and what you consciously learn from your direct experience.
yes,
Everything else is hearsay.
yeah. So if I follow this advice that I got,
Yes.
no matter where it came from,
Yes.
I go through with it.
Yes.
I kind of complete it through different kind of experiences in different modes and different times and da la la la.
Yes.
So I get many experiences that I can later bring into one whole experience.
Yes.
And from there, honestly feel what it gave me.
Yes.
That's an integrated experience of wholeness that I can bring with me as wisdom into this very moment.
All right. That's what you have genuinely learned. And the word learn contains earned in it. Because now you understand it. You've experienced it.
Yeah.
It's in your body. You have cellular consciousness of the experience and memory of it. So that every time that experience rises,
Yeah,
you see it immediately and invite it.
yeah,
Okay, the other thing I wanted to say is my answer to this is obviously both.
yeah,
My left hand is receiving this action.
yes,
The key is action. My right hand is generating an action.
So you used to tell there's a wind star now turning these harmony stars we're building from Asayers. And so it's kind of a toroidal field that spins now.
So this is an action that came from the imaginal,
Yes.
of a group of people choosing to work with the universal archetypal principle of harmony.
How many people were you, and for a long time did you study harmony?
This group of people was together approximately 19 months. We started with 7, 9, 10 or 11 people as kind of a center core, so to speak, generating center. And within a year, it had grown to literally hundreds of people in ways I won't get into now.
No, make it short, this one.
Well, no, I mean, that's enough. But
Yeah.
that's what it was. What the times were 72 to 74. Young men were coming back from Vietnam and were very angry and had a lot of young yang energy that had been trained to kill and blow things up, and they were turning it against their own government at that point, at least in their own psychology, and it was understandable. They'd been lied to and had been murdering people for a lie for a few rich people.
Yes.
So we had to create something to use that young yang energy to transform itself. And we created this opportunity for creativity, which was so intense that for 19 months, no one knew how it happened. It just happened.
Yeah.
So my experience is that it's available. We can do this, but it must be chosen. We must have a common vision that we agree on, and then out of that common vision, projects that are real and practical, that some people say, all right, I'll get involved with that project. I like that. I like energy, the thought of energy abundance. I'll help co-create energy abundance and work with that. Or, yeah, I like healing nourishment. I like making tinctures and growing food and trading seeds, heritage organic seeds and things. So it literally is now, instead of killing everything, instead of investing so much precious living human energy in necrophilia, the love of death, all we got to do is just kind of turn our heads about 180 degrees and say, oh, wait, there's this other choice. We can choose biophilia, the love of life. And instead of making war technology, which almost all technology that we use today, folks, over 90% of all technology, automobiles, everything, it all comes from war. Got to go back to the source of things. The source center contains, the seeds contain the oak tree. The acorn contains a whole forest of oak trees. Study the seeds of things. That's where everything begins. That's the center.
So can I return to the question again? My own answer, or the co-created answer, was that depends on the situation in the moment, so it's both and all, which is your answer too. And you show me the harmony star, have you spinning it around, and your left hand is the receptive one underneath, and the right hand is above, and that's more the active yang, giving energy. So also it comes to spin here now. So if the Earth,
but part of your question was the imaginal.
yes,
That event, that actual physical three-dimensional event, came from the imaginal. When a group of people started to imagine what is harmony, what is the universal archetypal principle of the great harmony, as the Chinese refer to it, the great harmony.
Yeah.
What is that? Well, we started to imagine what that was, and we discussed that. And out of that came all these other expressions of that study and our expression of the experience of the great harmony. And this happened to be one of them that popped out. This WinStar Harmony Generator is one of the expressions of that 19 months of those folks coming together to study the principle of harmony and to realize it and to actually apply it in our lives and to truly live a lifestyle of peace and harmony for that, and unbelievable creativity for that period of time.
yeah. The interesting when I watch them and observe them. Right now it spins in one way, in one direction. It's spinning one way.
Yeah,
from
clockwise, basically.
Clockwise.
From the top.
But as the Earth is also spinning one way,
Counterclockwise.
the way the Tao. It depends from where I'm standing, from my viewpoint, my perception, if it spins counterclockwise or if it spins clockwise. The same with
spinning counterclockwise.
the same with the Earth. So from this perspective, it's spinning in one way all the time.
Counterclockwise.
But for another person that stands on the other side, would see it spinning in another direction. But it's the same spin, if you say so.
Clockwise.
So many perspectives to one truth.
That's it. If there's this perspective, you know damn well, excuse me, you know that there's this equal opposite. Because in this three-dimensional universe, for every positive thrust, there's an equal and opposite negative response. It has to be that way to create a three-dimensional universe. There's nothing wrong with negative. Half of truth is negative. But the mind puts a moral judgment on negative. There's something wrong with negative. You couldn't start your car in the morning if there weren't a negative pole. There wouldn't be an earth if there weren't a negative pole. So there wouldn't be you recording this, and there wouldn't be me speaking if there weren't a negative pole. The Native Americans in America say that everything that is casts a shadow. That's part of the negative aspect of ourselves, and we're responsible for the whole. Plus, it's the whole that liberates us.
Yeah, and for example, to finding this, or open up to this imaginal realm, where I now start to feel that it's a kind of a bridge between the two worlds. To open up to this imaginal realm, from my sketch I did yesterday, how to get there, darkness is a key component here.
Yeah.
Because in darkness, in the negative space, if you say so,
Yes.
without putting judgment into the word negative,
Yeah.
the jinn at night, the sun comes up at day, and then there's this half dark and half light. It's just the cycle and spinning of life. There's nothing else. So, for example, here in this case, I would say that darkness is more important for me to find this magical realm than the light at daytime, because there's more distraction to me. When my eyes are open, it's a sense organ that gives me knowledge into what I see. But when I close my eyes, I'm closer to my inner world and the magical realm. That's what I feel.
Yes. That's my experience, Michael.
So the negative becomes the positive.
Yes, because they both realize they're completely codependent on each other. And it's not that they become positive, they both become creative. At that moment, instead of even thinking about positive or negative, which is a reinforcement of the polarity,
Yes.
they detach from their polarity, of their identity with being either positive or negative, and they return to the center. At this point of integration in the center, they fuse, and union takes place, and a new unified field begins to generate out, and that's the integrated field that's creating a new archetypal energy that begins to create these new imaginal forms that eventually manifest out into a three-dimensional physical form here on the whole earth. And that seems to be the way the process works. And when we can plug into that, we can kind of choose what energies we choose to invoke and work with and manifest. So I can choose harmony instead of harm. I can choose peace instead of war. I can choose continual new birth with every breath instead of death. There's all these choices that are available to us if we'll just simply give up choosing the old and begin choosing new choices to see if they work for us. At first it's going to be difficult. Everything at first up front is difficult because there's natural resistance. The old doesn't want to let go. However, once you've experienced it 3 or 4 or 5 times, you start to realize that maybe this could be at least different from and equal to the other way of doing it, and possibly even better. Feels better. Harmony feels better than harm. Peace feels better than war. Certainly up front. And for 70 years, every time I've experienced peace, which has been many times because I've been looking for it and co-creating it, I certainly prefer that to even thinking about war. So if there is truly free human choice, I choose peace through renaissance rather than war and death, at the very least, with every breath. And I honestly feel I have that choice, and if I continue to make that choice in a concentrated way, before I know it, I begin to manifest it in a material form, in a material way. Because this is the way energy manifests from energetic states into imaginal forms on down into physical forms, into individual crystallized forms.
So why all this pain in the world? And let me answer that myself. I look at nature a lot and observe how it all works. Humans, of course, included there. And I see a baby, I see a human being coming out from another human being. And if you stop and you observe that what's happening, it's a human being is coming out from another human being, and then that baby is growing up and also get a new baby with her or his mate, or woman or man, or whatever you say, and it's a new baby. So it's like fractals coming out new from ourselves. And in almost every cases, there is pain for women when the baby is coming through the birth channel.
Possibly the baby. Probably the baby.
Yeah.
The woman and the baby.
So in a very new birth, there is pain. It goes together. Mostly. Then there are these orgasmic kind of birthing, and also with dolphins and water birth and all this. But in general, it takes pain for something to be born. Something has to die to be born.
And there's resistance, and there's the pain.
Yeah.
Resistance
Yeah.
creates the friction,
Yeah.
which causes the pain.
And this is a natural occurrence, the happening.
Yes and no. It's still choice.
Huh.
As you said, and then there's the orgasmic birth.
Hmm.
Now, why are there the orgasmic births? Well, first of all, because these women were conscious that that orgasmic births are possible and available to them.
Hmm.
First, that's imaginal.
Yeah.
They hear that, and their imagination catches that sound,
Yeah.
that information in that sound, and the imaginal creates an image of them giving birth this way.
Hmm.
And so they start to investigate it and become conscious of it so that they can make a decision. And so then they discipline themselves because they're determined that they're not going to have pain, that they're not going to bring that child in
Hmm.
through pain.
Hmm.
That they're going to bring that child into what is for human beings the ultimate feminine, physical, ecstatic pleasure.
Hmm.
Mahamudra, cosmic orgasm, because at the moment of coming, she's giving birth.
Hmm.
Instead of screaming and having the baby terrified that he's leaving this oceanic wonder state that he was in, and all of a sudden coming into this light and all this artificial reality.
So it's not a way of seeing a transition. A transition doesn't have to be all chaotic and painful. There may be another way.
Consciousness by its very nature is choice, Michael.
Hmm.
Consciousness is choice. Unconsciousness is no choice. I'm at the realms, I'm at the service of a demonic force that dictates my life, that I have no conscious choice in the matter.
What about choiceless awareness? Choiceless
That's the
awareness.
center.
When there's no choice.
That's the center. There's no need for choice because there's no attachment to anything.
The movie Mr. Nobody is a good recommendation for this kind of question. Choice or no choice.
And how choice affects future events, or no choice affects future events. See, no choice is a choice. Chinese call it wu wei,
Yeah.
actionless action. It's the choice to take no action, and that's the action, to take no action. So you see, it's very difficult to absolutely do nothing, nowhere. Even Krishna says that in the Bhagavad Gita. He says, even I, the God of gods, the Lord of lords, cannot do nothing. I got to do something. Because it's still a separate thing. It's still an I. So Krishna isn't God either, you see. Krishna's still another concept, another story.
Can we return to the imaginal again? I've been
imaginal,
directing
yeah.
us away from that.
No, that actually is the imaginal. Because for sure we know that Krishna is a mythological,
Yeah.
religious being.
It became a symbol at the very least.
Well, at the very least, he's a symbol. He's a Christ. He's the Christ of the Hindus. He's the Christ of one of the Hindus. Krishna means Christ. And I think I read that somewhere.
But do we know that he existed, like in physical?
Well, we don't know that Jesus existed either.
No.
There's no news at 11. There's no film, there's no eyewitnesses. It's all story. It's hearsay. It's myth with some kernel in it, something going on, or they would have gone to all the trouble not only to write it down and record it and express it, but to keep it going for so long. Why is this so important to human beings? These mythologies. Why do we keep hanging on to them? Well, because it's our connection with whatever God is. It's our religion. All religion is myth. It's all myth.
Well, the question is how much the religions are binding us back into an old paradigm that doesn't really make us grow as humans, or how much a religion really is growth for us. For me, growth is something new.
Well, as you said, in Latin, religare, religion comes from religare, which means to bind back, as yoga does in Hindi, to bind back, to yoke to God, to bind back to God. Well, the God that comes to me and reveals itself to me doesn't want to bind me to anything, particularly to the past.
Because God is dynamic and new, as I feel it.
That's my experience, Michael. But
There's nothing static.
That's not everybody's experience. Obviously, there's billions of people who have very rigidly fixed religions who don't have that experience at all. Their God is the memory of this story that they keep telling over and over again. That's their God. It's the belief about a story, a mythology. So like Krishnamurti says, as long as I'm bound by the past, even my genetic ties to mother and clan, I'll not ever be free in truth. And that's, I mean, Buddha suggested that freedom is the ultimate end. He called it moksha. And first you must go through nirvana, which is the annihilation of everything. The realization, the full experience and realization that nothing, nowhere, is the most real thing there is. And then from that point realizing you are now a co-creator with every breath. However, you are now fully responsible for every breath, every heartbeat.
Yeah. All that rigidity and control and stay with something static is kind of a male yang energy.
Yes.
Which is also kind of related to the mind.
Yes.
And that's how generations of generations have been programmed and even evolutionized itself. And that's how we are taught how the world is and stuff. We somewhere in the process we forgot about the female principle, the heart, the gene. We speak in the imaginal realm, in symbols, in flowing images of emotions. And that's where I'm trying now to return to find my wholeness from both polarities in the center.
Yeah. Well, in the first place, it's important to remember that the heart center isn't just yin. It's half yin, but it's also active. So the heart is active and rests half the time. It's active half the time, male half the time, it rests half the time, it receives.
Yes.
Because when it rests, it fills up with blood.
Yes, true.
So it's dynamically receptive. Here's what the mystics say. In almost all the mystical literature that I've studied from various cultures, they all suggest this one same thing. That men, males, in relationship to whatever God is, we are to be females. We are to be brides to the omniversal creative spirit of truth, which is what God is to me. Which means that I make a conscious choice to dynamically open, welcome, and receive whatever the spirit of truth gives me. But then, once I've received it and I center all that information and integrate it so I understand it clearly, in order to give it away, I become almost completely yang. At this moment then, in my relationship with the universe, with the physical universe, and my relationships with other people and my environment and everything, I'm yang. So in relationship to the creative spirit, I'm yin. In relationship to the whole earth and all the people on the earth, I'm yang.
Yeah, okay, very good, very good. Because I was going to come to the next question.
Which is what this is.
About for the male human to find his inner female, to find the balance within.
The male human being, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
And here Jung is talking about the anima.
Yes.
And then the opposite for the ladies, the women, that they have to find the inner male, the animus.
Yes.
So
If they want
for me, it
wholeness.
makes more sense to, for me, my inner female may reside more in my heart. The question is, how are the female doing that work if they want to find the inner male? Are they going more into the mind then? From the heart? Or do we return to that statement you just had about being androgynous in the receptivity mode of from spirit?
Wait a minute now. Okay, ask me one question now.
Okay. How does women find their inner male?
The same way that men find their inner female, they follow the breath to the center.
Okay, so for me that means towards the core, to the core, to the heart. Okay.
The inner male and the inner female mostly abide in the brain, in the mind brain. That's the polarity. It's the two hemispheres of the brain.
Okay, yeah.
Wholeness is the heart. In the heart center, they both melt.
Yeah.
They go away. They're neither one.
Mm.
They're neither male nor female. They're both.
Okay, I see.
So therefore, there's something more than.
Yeah.
The nothing that created both.
Yeah.
Well, we're that also. And we're completely programmed away from that. We're almost always given this or that, but hardly ever that middle way between. The Buddha keeps saying, hey everybody, no, it's a middle way. Don't get fascinated over there by either pole.
Yeah.
The center is the way.
Yeah. So so sync, like I work with hemisync music now.
Yes.
Sync the two half brains together, which brings them more peace into mind. From there, breathe into your center and work from that center and see what reveals to you in the moment.
Higher self, called by many names, oversoul, guardian angel, genius, Atman, that spark of God within. Higher self, even though it's called higher self and oversoul, lives in the center of your being. So if you want to experience higher self, you don't go upstairs. You do, but I'll get into that. But you eventually end up in the center of your individual being, in the space between heartbeats, in the area of your heart chakra. Because this is where your genius dwells. The abode of your higher self. We have a friend singing to us across the river. Is the space between heartbeats. And when you have this experience, so this isn't just a poetic turn of phrase, it's not just words, oh that's clever. No, this is an experience. And if and when you experience it, you'll understand these words, that they're an expression of an experience.
When you experience it, not if.
When you experience, when you choose. So again, Michael, we're back to this earlier thing that I said. Before we begin almost anything, there's some kind of image that comes from the imaginal. A blueprint, a psychic blueprint given to us by higher self. A spiritual roadmap of where we're going, individually and collectively. And each of us is imprinted with this spiritual roadmap from our higher self. Because eventually we're all going the same place.
And eventually there's no separation. There is no me and the higher self.
Yes.
But we have to start somewhere.
These are concepts
for us to be able to talk in words.
To encourage us to return to nothing, nowhere, so that we don't have to talk, and we can cease communication with each other and go directly to communion, where we're experiencing the same truth at the same time in full consciousness, so that we don't have to talk about it. because we're experiencing it. If I'm experiencing something, why do I want to leave the experience and start talking about it?
That's so terrifying for many people, that this whole life is about talking, sharing their story, listening to other stories, being in this drama kind of wheel spinning around or is turning around. So the unknown, there's this fear of the unknown. And especially for the mind, because the mind, ego doesn't want to die. And the only ways for it to stay alive is to be with its known. So there's a dilemma here.
Well, there's a dilemma anytime we're mind-centered. By the very nature of being mind-centered, there's going to be a dilemma because the mind, to use the brain as a physical example, is polarized. By its very nature, it's yang-yin, it's yes-no, it's positive-negative, it's light-dark.
Past future doesn't want to live in the moment.
Exactly. So as long as we're stuck there in the mind, as long as we've chosen to imprison ourselves in the belief that mind is absolute, we can't grow. We can't grow emotionally, we can't grow spiritually, we can't transform physically.
We can separate ourselves more and more and more and more fragmented. We can do that.
And our souls atrophy and wither up and go dormant.
And probably in the very end,
zombies.
In the very end of it, we may separate that much as we go to emptiness anyway. When we come into the quarks, and if we go all the way, like maybe Buddha did, I don't know if his Vipassana insight meditation through self-knowledge. So it feels like somehow both way always leads to the one way anyhow, but I don't want to go that direction anymore that the worlds are going right now, so I choose to return from that direction.
Well, the key there, what you just said, is choice. You said, I choose. That by its very nature implies an action. And that action is transformational, because the choice is to not invest any energy in the old pattern, but to now return to originality in the center, and from the center with your breath, co-create a new pattern for yourself. That's natural, that comes from your higher self, through yourself, that is designed specifically for you, the whole individual being, and how then you go into community with other people who have done similar work within and have similar talents without, and how they harmonize together and dovetail, and how projects are created and spin-offs happen, and however it returns to the center.
Over diverse talents too. The talents out there can be how diverse they want to be. It doesn't have to be similar. But to bring that diversity into one wholeness, to one principle, and you can see those talents as qualities, waves that are touching each other's into one principle, and that's when we can work in harmony.
That one principle is in the center of every individual being. That's the paradox of the center. One of the many paradoxes of the center. Every individual human being, in order to be centered, whole, dynamically balanced, integrated, androgynous, and individual, meaning not divided, not dual, but whole, integrated. In order to do this, he or she must eventually experience and understand and realize his or her true center, individual center. However, in this experience, if it's true, if you're really centered, you realize that your individual center is the center. It's the same center. Because no matter where that center is, it's the same center. It's nothing, nowhere. It's the space between heartbeats. It's the aspiration point between breath.
Yeah, it's about letting go of the me.
It's nothing, nowhere. Yes, the I am.
The me I am, me and this story and what I can do. And to let go of that is death itself, or it's transformation of energy.
Yes.
And that's being, that process is being the receptive of spirit.
Yes.
But-
by choice.
But to do that after being living 30 years into me and I am, or be living 40 years or 70 years or how many years you have been living in it.
Plus your genetic programming that contains it
After
also.
generation of generations.
Yes.
This is a tough task.
Yes, there are very few Buddhas in Christ. However, that's what's happening now with the shift. Every child, woman, and man is remembering his or her genius and becoming Krishna Buddha Christ.
Remembering is to gather together again, union.
Put the members back
Membership
together.
again.
Community.
In oneness.
Osiris, they remembered him. They put all of his cut up members back together except his penis. They couldn't find his penis, so Isis made a golden phallus for him, strapped that on, so it brought him back to life. Remember.
Yeah, remember is...
Become whole. Integrate.
We just need to remember one thing. Or one no thing.
Yes.
All other memories are, in a sense, illusion.
As you said earlier, even the concept, even the idea of beginning to think about nothing, nowhere, terrifies ego. However, this is an experience, some people call it the void, the abyss, the pit, that's available for everyone, and only a fool, relative to the world empire, those who live in the world empire, only a fool would take a leap into that void, that psychic void, that great unknown.
And this is what the science says about this. In this physical 3D realm world, every gross materia, my body, a grass, a leaf, or anything, consists of 0.0000001 matter. The rest, 99.9999999 is empty space, is the void. So the science have been seeing, but what's in this void? Is it just empty, or is there anything in there? Okay, this is what it came to. They came to the result that in 1 centimeter cube, they come to this enormous amount of full it is actually 10 up in 93 grams full. And this number is so vast that if you take all the stars and galaxies that we know of, that we can see in the universe, and we're talking about billions of galaxies, and in each galaxy there's billions of stars. You're taking all these materia, bring this into the centimeter cube, and it kind of fill up the half of that empty space. So I would say that this void is kind of full.
For those of you who don't understand what Michael just said, if you're listening to this, I would suggest that you find Nassim's Harimind's series, Crossing the Event Horizon, and study it carefully. Don't just watch it once and say, well, I don't understand that, but it must have been great. Listen to it 4 or 5 or 6 times until you begin to understand what he's saying, and then you start to put it all together and you say, oh wow, I get it, I understand. And realize that your heart is a toroidal generator that is creating a toroidal field exactly like he's talking about.
Spinning
And creating life itself with your breath. So regardless of anything that your mind thinks, just begin everything with your next breath and the one in your body now, and remember to consciously breathe and be grateful for every spiritual breath that you are given and are given the opportunity to give as a gift in return. Because with your creative imagination, you can place something in your expiration, your out breath, and with your creative imagination and your spiritual out breath, give that gift to the one and all, or your child, or your loved one, or your enemy. The breath is a very potent, the spiritual breath and creative imagination together are very potent creative fields of energy. They're alive with creative juice.